I kicked out my sister and her kids after she called me her sugar daddy and demanded I co-sign her mortgage. But I changed all the locks while they were out and had their stuff moved to a sketchy motel. For context, I'm Luke, 38M, and my sister is Colette, 35F. We weren't super close growing up, but we got along fine. She was always the social butterfly while I was the quiet bookworm type. After high school, she got married to her college boyfriend Tom and had 2 kids, Anya, 17F, and Bruce, 15M. I stayed single, focused on my career in accounting, and bought a 3-bedroom house in a decent neighborhood about 5 years ago. Colette and Tom's marriage started falling apart around 2 years ago. There were fights about money, him staying out late, her spending too much on the kids' activities. The usual stuff that breaks up marriages. I heard bits and pieces from our mom, but Colette and I only talked maybe once every few months, usually just holiday calls. Last October, Colette called me crying. She said Tom had filed for divorce and wanted her out of the house within 30 days. She claimed he was keeping everything and she had nowhere to go with the kids. Her friends couldn't take them in long term, and our parents live in a retirement community in Arizona that doesn't allow extended family stays. She asked if she and the kids could stay with me for a few weeks while she figured things out. She said she just needed time to find a job and an apartment. I said yes because what else could I do? She's my sister and those are my niece and nephew. The first week went okay. Colette took the guest room and the kids shared the spare bedroom I used as an office. I moved my computer to my bedroom to make space. They were quiet and kept to themselves mostly. Anya spent most of her time on her phone and Bruce played video games. Colette was on her laptop constantly, supposedly looking for jobs and apartments. By the second week, things started changing. They began leaving their stuff all over the house. Dishes in the sink, clothes on the bathroom floor, takeout containers on the coffee table. Colette started using my Netflix account but complained that I didn't have the premium package with multiple screens. She upgraded it without asking and said she'd pay me back. The grocery situation got weird fast. Colette would add items to my shopping list, expensive organic stuff, special shampoos for Anya, energy drinks for Bruce. When I mentioned the grocery bill had doubled, she said the kids had specific dietary needs and promised to get a job soon to help with expenses. 3 weeks in, Colette asked for gas money. Her car was almost empty and she had job interviews lined up. I gave her $40. Then she needed money for interview clothes. Then the kids needed school supplies for their new school. Each request was small enough that saying no felt petty, but they added up fast. The job search seemed to go nowhere. Every interview was either not the right fit or the company decided to hire internally. Colette started talking about maybe going back to school for a certificate program. She found a 6-month medical billing course that would guarantee job placement afterward. The course cost $3,000. I started keeping track of expenses in a notebook. In 2 months, I had spent over $800 on their food, gas, clothes, and random purchases. This didn't include utilities, which had nearly doubled, or the premium subscriptions Colette had upgraded without permission. Around Christmas, I tried to have a conversation about timelines. I asked Colette what her plan was for finding a place. She got defensive and said she was doing her best in a tough situation. Anya rolled her eyes and said I was being dramatic about money. Bruce didn't look up from his phone. In January, Colette announced she had enrolled in the medical billing course. She said it was an investment in their future and asked if I could help with the tuition. When I hesitated, she pointed out that I didn't have a family to support and my house would just be empty otherwise. She said the kids were finally settled in their new school and it would be cruel to disrupt them again. I paid for the course because I couldn't figure out how to say no without seeming heartless. The dynamic in the house got more comfortable for them and more stressful for me. Colette treated the place like it was hers. She rearranged furniture, bought decorations for the living room, and started inviting her friends over for coffee dates. Anya began bringing friends home after school without asking. Bruce claimed the basement as his gaming space and moved my exercise equipment to the garage. By March, I realized they weren't planning to leave. Colette was halfway through her course and kept talking about how nice it was that the kids had stability. She mentioned that Anya was thinking about staying at the same high school for senior year instead of moving districts. I made a calendar and marked a date in May when Colette's course would be finished. I put it on the refrigerator and wrote moving day on it. Colette took it down and threw it away. She said I was being passive-aggressive and that families should support each other during hard times. The final breaking point happened on a Saturday in April. I had cooked dinner for everyone, spaghetti with meat sauce, garlic bread, salad. I was hoping we could have a family conversation about their plans after Colette finished her course. During dinner, Colette was scrolling through real estate apps on her phone. She showed me a house for sale 3 streets over and said it would be perfect for her and the kids. The asking price was $250,000. She said she had been thinking about how I could co-sign for her since she wouldn't qualify for a mortgage on her own right away. When I didn't respond immediately, Anya chimed in that it made sense since I was just rattling around in my big house anyway. Bruce nodded and said the house she showed me had a bigger basement for his gaming setup. Colette then said something that made my blood run cold. She said that since I had been supporting them anyway, becoming their co-signer would just make it official. She said I was practically their sugar daddy already, so why not make it legal? Anya and Bruce laughed. Anya said I should be happy to have a purpose since I didn't have my own family. Bruce said at least they made the house less depressing. I sat there for about 30 seconds, then pushed my chair back and walked upstairs to my room. I could hear them laughing downstairs and Colette telling the kids I was having one of my moods. That night, I started planning. Update 1: the comments on my last post were eye-opening. A lot of people told me I needed to grow a spine, and they were right. What happened next proved just how right they were. After that dinner conversation, I knew talking to Colette wouldn't work. She had already shown me that she saw my house as hers and my money as hers. The kids clearly felt the same way. Any conversation would just lead to guilt trips about family loyalty and manipulation about the kids' school situation. I decided to handle this the way I handle everything else, methodically and completely. First, I documented everything. I went through my bank statements and credit card bills to calculate exactly how much I had spent on them since October. The total was shocking, over $4,000 in 7 months. This included groceries, utilities, gas money, clothes, school supplies, entertainment subscriptions, and Colette's course tuition. I typed up an itemized bill with dates and amounts. Every grocery run where I bought their organic food and energy drinks. Every time I gave Colette gas money. The Netflix premium upgrade, the Spotify family plan, the HBO Max subscription Anya wanted. Even small things like the extra toilet paper and shampoo we went through with 3 additional people in the house. Next, I researched extended stay motels in the area. I found one about 15 minutes away that offered weekly rates and allowed families. It wasn't fancy but it was clean and safe. I called and booked them a room for 1 week, paying in advance. Then I contacted a moving company and scheduled them for a Wednesday when I knew Colette would be at her classes and the kids would be at school. I also called a locksmith and arranged for them to come the same afternoon to change all the locks. On Tuesday night, I told Colette I was having the carpets professionally cleaned on Wednesday and everyone needed to be out of the house from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. She complained about the inconvenience but agreed to spend the day at the library and shopping mall with the kids. Wednesday morning, I watched them leave. Colette was annoyed about having to kill time all day. Anya complained about missing her afternoon plans. Bruce was upset about not being able to access his gaming setup. The movers arrived at 10 a.m. I had marked everything that belonged to Colette and the kids with blue painter's tape the night before. Clothes, electronics, books, toiletries, Anya's makeup collection, Bruce's gaming equipment, even the decorations Colette had bought for the living room. Everything went into boxes and got loaded onto the truck. The locksmith came at 2 p.m. and changed the locks on the front door, back door, and garage. I gave him an extra $50 to do it quickly and thoroughly. I had the movers take everything to the extended stay motel and leave it in the room I had rented. I left the itemized bill on top of the boxes along with a note explaining that I had paid for 1 week at the motel and they needed to make other arrangements after that. At 6 p.m., my phone started ringing. Colette called first, screaming about how the key wasn't working. Then Anya called, crying about how all her stuff was gone. Bruce texted asking if this was some kind of joke. I didn't answer any of the calls or texts. I sat in my living room, which looked empty and clean for the first time in months, and watched through the window as they stood on my front porch. Colette pounded on the door for about 10 minutes. She yelled about how I couldn't just throw them out with no warning. Anya was crying on the porch steps. Bruce was kicking at my flower pots. My neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, came out and asked if everything was okay. Colette tried to explain that I had locked them out of their home. Mrs. Patterson looked confused and said she didn't understand why Colette was calling my house their home. After about an hour, they left. My phone kept buzzing with messages, but I had turned off the sound. Thursday morning, I woke up to silence. No one running the shower at 6 a.m. No one making noise in the kitchen. No one arguing about who got the TV remote. Colette sent me a long email Thursday afternoon. She said I had humiliated her and the kids. She said Anya's friends at school were asking where she lived now and she was too embarrassed to explain. She said Bruce was devastated about losing his gaming setup space. She demanded that I fix the situation immediately. I replied with a PDF of the itemized bill and the address of the motel. I told her I had paid for 1 week and after that, They needed to figure out their own living situation. She responded that she couldn't afford to pay me back right away but would work out a payment plan after she finished her course and got a job. She said the motel was disgusting and not suitable for children. I didn't reply to that email or any of the others that followed. My mother called Friday evening. Colette had contacted her and told her version of the story. Mom said she understood that I needed my space back but asked if I could have handled it differently. I told her the truth about the money and the cosigning conversation. Mom was quiet for a long time, then said she didn't realize how bad things had gotten. It's been 3 weeks since I changed the locks. Colette's course ends next month. I don't know where they're living now, but it's not my problem anymore. Update 2: I thought things would settle down after my last update, but Colette had other plans. After I changed the locks, Colette and the kids spent about 10 days at that extended stay motel. I know this because the motel manager called me when the week I paid for was up. He said they were asking if someone else would be covering their bill, and when I said no, he told them they had to leave. For a few weeks, things were quiet. I blocked Colette's number after she left me 17 voicemails in one day, most of them switching between begging and yelling. Anya created fake social media accounts to message me, calling me heartless and cruel. Bruce somehow got my email address and sent me gaming videos with titles like Uncle Fails and Family Betrayal Compilation. I figured they had found somewhere else to stay and the drama was over. I was wrong. Last month, I came home from work to find my next-door neighbor, Mr. Chen, waiting for me in his driveway. He said a woman claiming to be my sister had been coming by the house during the day while I was at work. She told him she had locked herself out and asked if he had a spare key or knew how to get in. Mr. Chen said he told her he didn't have a key and suggested she call me. She said we had gotten into a fight but it would blow over soon. She asked if he knew my work schedule and whether I usually came home for lunch. This freaked me out. I installed a video doorbell and security cameras that weekend. The cameras caught Colette twice over the next 2 weeks. Both times, she came during weekday afternoons when most people are at work. She walked around the house, looking in windows and trying door handles. Once, she sat on my back porch for over an hour, just staring at the house. I saved the footage but didn't contact her. I figured she would get tired of it and move on. Then my mom called with news. Colette had been telling people in our hometown that I had stolen money from her during her divorce and kicked her and the kids onto the streets without warning. She was posting on Facebook about how family members who have money should help family members who don't, with lots of passive-aggressive quotes about loyalty and blood being thicker than water. The posts were getting attention from people who remembered us from high school. Some of Colette's friends were commenting about what a terrible person I was. A few people who knew me better were asking for my side of the story, but I didn't want to get into a social media war. Mom said Colette had also been calling our relatives, asking if anyone could take her and the kids in. She told them I had promised to support them through her career change and then backed out without warning. Most of our relatives live far away and couldn't help, but they were all hearing this version of events. The worst part was that Colette had started bringing Anya and Bruce to these family phone calls. Anya would get on the phone crying about how they had to sleep in a car some nights. Bruce would talk about having to change schools and leave all his friends. They painted a picture of me as someone who had everything and refused to share with family members who had nothing. I started getting calls from relatives I hadn't talked to in years. My aunt from Oregon called to lecture me about family responsibility. My cousin from Texas sent me a long text about how he would never turn away family, no matter what. My mom's brother called to ask if I needed help understanding how to be a good person. It was exhausting. Every time I explained what really happened, I felt like I was defending myself against charges that didn't make sense. Yes, I had money saved up, but that didn't mean I owed it to Colette. Yes, I had extra space in my house, but that didn't mean she could live there permanently without contributing. But the narrative Colette created was simpler and more emotionally appealing. She was a struggling single mother abandoned by her wealthy brother. I was a selfish man hoarding resources while family members suffered. The situation escalated when Colette showed up at my office. I work for a small accounting firm with about 12 employees. We all know each other pretty well, and it's a professional but relaxed environment. Colette came in on a Thursday afternoon, crying and asking the receptionist if she could speak with me. She said it was a family emergency. The receptionist, who didn't know the situation, brought her back to my office. Colette sat down and immediately started talking loudly about how I had thrown her and the kids out with no notice. She said they were living in a homeless shelter and Anya was having to walk to school because they couldn't afford bus fare. She said she was about to lose her spot in the medical billing course because she couldn't afford the remaining tuition payments. My coworkers could hear everything. Colette was talking loud enough that people in nearby offices were looking over. I asked her to lower her voice, and she said she was sorry if the truth was embarrassing for me. I told her we could talk outside, but she said she was too tired to stand because she had been walking all day to save gas money. She asked if my company had a family assistance program that could help with her situation. My boss, Jennifer, came over and asked if everything was okay. Colette introduced herself as my sister and started explaining how I had abandoned my family. Jennifer looked confused and uncomfortable. She suggested that Colette and I handle family matters outside of work hours. Colette said she understood but hoped that people who worked with me would know what kind of person I really was. Then she left. After she was gone, Jennifer asked me to step into her office. She said she didn't want to get involved in family drama, but having emotional confrontations at work wasn't appropriate. She asked if I needed time off to handle the situation. I felt humiliated. I had to explain the whole story to my boss and convince her that I wasn't the villain Colette made me out to be. Jennifer was understanding, but I could tell the whole thing made her uncomfortable. Word got around the office quickly. Some of my coworkers asked if I was okay. Others seemed to avoid me. I don't know what they believed, but the whole situation made work awkward for weeks. Colette's visit to my office was the last straw. I realized she wasn't going to stop escalating until she got what she wanted. And what she wanted was for me to take care of her and the kids permanently, with no boundaries or expectations. I wasn't going to let that happen. Update 3: The situation with Colette reached its breaking point sooner than I expected. After her visit to my office, I thought about getting a restraining order, but I wasn't sure I had enough evidence. The security footage showed her around my house, but she hadn't actually tried to break in or threaten me directly. Her social media posts and family phone calls were annoying but not illegal. I decided to wait and see what she would do next. I didn't have to wait long. 2 weeks ago, I got a call from my bank. A fraud specialist said someone had tried to open a credit card account using my social security number and address. The application was flagged because the signature didn't match the one they had on file for my existing accounts. I knew immediately it was Colette. She had lived in my house for 7 months and had access to all my personal documents. I filed a police report for identity theft and fraud. The police took the report but said they needed more evidence to press charges. Credit card fraud is common and hard to prove unless you catch someone in the act. 3 days later, Colette called me from an unknown number. I answered because I didn't recognize it, thinking it might be work-related. She was crying and said she was desperate. She said the medical billing course was almost finished but she needed $200 for the final certification exam. Without the certification, she couldn't get a job in the field. She said Anya was embarrassed about their living situation and Bruce was falling behind in school because they had to keep moving around. I told her about the credit card application and said I knew she had tried to use my identity. She denied it at first, then said she had only been trying to get a small amount of credit to cover basic necessities. She said she had planned to pay it back as soon as she got a job. I told her that was fraud and I had filed a police report. She started screaming that I was trying to destroy her life. She said I had already taken away her housing and now I was trying to get her arrested. I hung up and blocked the new number. Last week, Colette showed up at my house again. This time, she brought both kids with her. My security camera caught the whole thing. Colette was pacing on my front porch while Anya and Bruce sat on the steps. Anya was crying and Bruce looked miserable. Colette kept pointing at the windows and gesturing like she was explaining something to them. After about 20 minutes, Colette started pounding on the door. She yelled that she knew I was home because my car was in the driveway. She said the kids needed to talk to their uncle and I couldn't hide forever. Anya joined in, crying and saying she just wanted her stuff back. Bruce said they were sleeping in their mom's car and it was my fault. I didn't answer the door, but I called the police. I told them I had previously asked my sister not to come to my property and she was now trespassing with her children. 2 officers arrived about 15 minutes later. I watched through the window as they talked to Colette and the kids. Colette was gesturing toward my house and seemed to be explaining her version of events. The kids were both crying. One officer came to my door and asked to speak with me. I showed him the security footage from Colette's previous visits and explained the situation. He said they couldn't arrest her for trespassing unless I had previously given her written notice to stay away, but they would ask her to leave and tell her not to come back. The officers talked to Colette for another 10 minutes. She seemed to be arguing with them. Finally, they walked her and the kids to their car and waited while they drove away. After they left, one of the officers gave me a form to fill out for a formal trespass warning. He said if Colette came back to my property after receiving the warning, she could be arrested. I filled out the form and mailed it the next day. Yesterday, I got a text from an unknown number. It was from Anya. She said she was 18 now and could make her own decisions. She said she was going to move in with friends and finish high school there. She said I had destroyed her family and she never wanted to see me again. I didn't reply. This morning, my mom called. She said Colette had contacted her again, this time asking for money for a security deposit on an apartment. Colette told her she had found a job in medical billing and just needed help with upfront costs. Mom asked if I thought she should help. I told her that was her decision, but Colette had been telling different stories to different people for months. I said if Mom wanted to help, she should ask for documentation of the job offer and apartment application. Mom was quiet for a while, then said she was starting to see a pattern in Colette's requests for help. She said she would think about it. I don't know where Colette and the kids are living now. I don't know if she actually finished her course or found a job. I don't know if Anya really moved in with friends or if that was just another manipulation attempt. What I know is that I have my house back, my life back, and my money back under my control. The relatives who lectured me about family loyalty have stopped calling. My coworkers have moved on to other topics. My boss seems to have forgotten about the office incident. Colette taught me something important. She showed me that some people will take as much as you give them and then demand more. She showed me that setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's necessary. I'm not proud of how the situation ended, especially seeing how it affected Anya and Bruce. But I'm not sorry I protected myself and my resources from someone who saw me as an endless source of support with no limits or expectations. Colette made her choices. Now she has to live with the consequences.